This is the Hope Not Note podcast,
where we answer your questions and share inspirational stories to fill your soul with hope.
Our mission is to empower hope to those who have been plagued by nope.
I'm Dr. Dylan Caswell.
And I'm Brandy.
And we're here to bring you out of the nope and into hope.
Welcome to the Hope Not Note podcast, and thank you so much for tuning in. I am very pumped for this episode. Pumped up because it has to do with Happy Gilmore.
Oh,
yeah. We have watched it. Before I ask the question, do you want to
Yeah.
give a quick review of the new Happy Gilmore movie?
Oh, what's the scale? 10?
10?
11. 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10, baby.
I used to have a friend that, what's the scale? 0 to 10. And he'd go, it's great. It's like, you didn't give me a number.
Didn't give me a number, but good try, buddy.
Oh, but honestly, one of the best sequels.
Yeah.
Hole in one. Like, he absolutely crushed it. The cameos, it's just, gosh, the amount of people that were in that movie.
Like over 60?
Over 60. I think the count's up to like 70 something now, and like more and more keep coming out. The lines, the flashbacks, being an Adam Sandler fan.
Yeah.
Like, anytime there's a sequel, you get a little bit nervous. And if you have been nervous about watching it because you're afraid that it's going to ruin Happy Gilmore or take away from the first one, it just makes it that much better.
Yeah, I think of like The Sandlot or Space Jam or even like The Lion King or Little Mermaid or like any of our childhood movies that were cartoon or not cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely, maybe I should think about it a little longer, but I genuinely can't think of a movie that the second one is better. I just thought of one, which you're not going to care. High School Musical 2 was definitely the best out of the High School Musical movies.
Man.
But Happy Gilmore 2, not that it was better than the first one, but I would argue that it's like the best sequel that I've seen.
Yeah, it wasn't just tap, tap, tap it in. Give it an old taparoo. It was a freaking slam dunk.
Yeah, it was awesome. So getting into the question, our listener named Damien had a great question, and it's connected to the movie. So he says, I saw in the new Happy Gilmore movie that clipping your ligament can help with hip rotation, thus improving your golf drive. By no means am I planning on doing that.
Smart.
But I am curious about like what is the science there?
So, yeah, don't clip the ligament and don't drink the drink that makes your breath smell like butt. That's in that movie. But Damien, I love the question, and we're gonna pretend that it came from Shooter McGavin. No,
Exactly.
we'll say that it came from Damien. So thank you for submitting that, and I love the question because we can really address this from a lot of different science angles. So our lovely host is going to help me stay on board and kind of choose which one we want to go first and make sure we hit each of them, because there's the anatomy, there's physics, there's the biomechanics that's kind of tied in with the physics, and then I think there's the movement system, motor control answer to the question.
Sure.
And so I think we need to hit all four of them. But I love the question because it's just a question out of curiosity. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go have this surgery done. I'm just wondering. Like, it was in the movie, and I'm wondering if you clip this iliofemoral ligament, could it actually improve your golf drive?
I appreciate Damien saying that he's curious, but I will say there are probably people out there that might think that you should do that now. Yeah. And I think of like the people who will do anything to win, which is kind of like the play on what the movie was in general. Like they think that there's some truth to this, and maybe there is, and that's why we're having this episode.
Right, especially that line of amateur potentially can be pro, but it didn't quite work. Like, what else can I do to get on the tour? Right, I could see some people getting that info, not from Happy Gilmore 2, but just as general info. And just being like, there's something to that. The confirmation bias.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah. So where should we start?
I think you should go in the order that you said.
What was that order? Do you remember? First anatomy?
Yeah, the anatomy.
We'll start with anatomy. Okay. So the anatomy, it's the ligament that they reference in Happy Gilmore 2 is the iliofemoral ligament, which is known as the Y ligament in the hip. It is known as the strongest ligament in the body. There's some ligaments in the spine that could potentially rival it, but as of now, it is known as the strongest ligament in the body. It is on the front of the hip. It has a medial lateral band. So basically, it has two bands, and ligaments are there to give stability to the joint and to help resist some motions. The hip has a lot of degrees of freedom, meaning that it moves in all different types of planes. It can flex, extend, rotate. It can come towards your midline. It can go away from your midline. The hip has a ton of mobility. People can do splits.
Hmm.
Like the hip is meant to be mobile, similar to the shoulder, but a little bit different. So the ligaments help to resist particular types of motion. The Y ligament or the iliofemoral ligament, its role is to resist extension of the hip or hyperextension or rotation at the hip.
Hmm. It does the rotation matter, like internal versus external rotation?
Yes. So this is pretty cool because now we can start getting into some of the biomechanics
Should we skip
of
physics
this.
and go to
Yeah,
biomechanics?
always skip physics. No, it's just kidding. We'll come back to the physics.
Okay.
But getting into the biomechanics, yeah, it does matter because this ligament resists external rotation of the hip. So let's take it and put it into context, kind of like real world application. So we're looking at a golf swing, right? The question is, getting rid of this ligament, does it improve your driving distance?
Can I interrupt?
Yeah,
Are we looking at a golf swing or a Happy Gilmore golf swing?
a quote unquote regular golf swing, which is challenging to reference because to me, a normal drive is a Happy Gilmore swing.
Okay, but a
But
standard one that you'd
the
see on the golf
standard
course.
being taught by swing coaches and at
Right.
actual golf clubs versus driving range, the standard feet in place golf swing.
Okay.
So let's use a right-handed golfer because we have to reference the backswing in order for this to make sense,
Mm.
right? So again, the Y ligament resists extension, external rotation. If we look at the backswing of a right-handed golfer, so what's the backswing? It's when the club is coming back. It's when you're kind of coiling the system and getting it ready to go into the downswing of when you actually impact the ball. So we go into the backswing. What's happening at the hips? The feet are on the ground, which means the pelvis is rotating upon the hip, where a lot of times people will think of motions as the hip moving upon the pelvis. But because the feet are stationary and positioned into the ground, the pelvis is rotating on top of the hip. So what ends up happening is on the right leg in a right-handed backswing, so the golf club's coming back, they're rotating back, that back hip is actually going into internal rotation and flexion, the opposite motions of what the Y ligament resists.
Mm.
So when in that backswing, the Y ligament on the right hip is actually becoming slackened. It's not resisting anything. It's not preventing motion on
Mm.
that right hip. On the left hip, the opposite can be true. That the left hip in a right-handed backswing, that hip is going into external rotation and extension. So the Y ligament might be resisting that a little bit. But when you watch the movie and you see the backswing, it seems like they're referencing, and they don't say it explicitly, but it seems like they're referencing that back hip, which from the anatomy, the physiology, and the biomechanics, it wouldn't make sense that clipping that ligament on that hip would then allow more motion to happen because the ligament isn't resisting that motion on the back hip because it's going into internal rotation and flexion versus extension and external rotation.
Right, like it's already creating the motion that it needs to, right?
So yeah, the hip is going into a direction that's opposite of what that ligament resists.
Right.
So clipping it doesn't do
Yeah,
anything
I wouldn't do anything one way or the
one
other.
way or the other. Just from a ligament perspective, like this is not even including the nervous system, the muscles, and
No.
physics, just the ligament itself.
Hmm. Wow. Do you want to get into the physics then?
Yeah,
All right, what's the
yeah.
physics?
So I could see from a physics point of view, because the first law of thermodynamics is that we cannot create or destroy energy, it can just be transformed. Right. And I think there's something biblical in that as well, in the sense that like the earth is created with everything that we need.
Mm.
We do not create more energy. We can harness more energy from turning more potential energy into kinetic energy, but we cannot create more energy.
Hmm.
Right. And people, well, what about solar panels? What about windmills? Yeah, we're not creating the energy. We're helping to transform it into a more usable form of energy for us and
Hmm.
our needs, right? So we cannot create energy. So we have potential energy that is then turned into kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is, think of kinetic like motion, moving. Potential energy, what's there? So potential energy, going back to physics, is mass times gravity times height. Looking at a golf swing, what are the things that we can change? Gravity? Not really. Unless we're playing on the moon or you're in a vacuum. Not like a vacuum you use to clean your house, but like a chamber that takes away
Right.
these forces. So gravity can't change that much. Mass, yeah, we can change it a little bit. Weight of the golf ball, weight of the club, weight of the golfer, or I should say mass to be more accurate. But we're not going to change that too much, right? But what about height? Height is something that we can change. If you imagine the backswing and we're referencing how far is the club height before we go into the downswing and impact, can you create more height on that that then can be transformed to further kinetic energy to go down and hit this? And yeah, you can. And again, I'm not a golf specialist. Early in my career, I worked with a lot of older golfers that I'll just say their swing was very stiff. They didn't have the ability to access hip rotation, spine rotation. So their swing was coming from their arms, their forearms, their shoulders. And could we improve their drive distance by allowing them to get their backswing higher, by allowing them to access further ranges of motion and have control in those motions? Yes, right? But there's going to be a limitation to that at some point. So the movie kind of portrays that like we cut the ligament, you can get further back into these motions.
So far back that you can wink at the person
So
behind
yeah,
you.
you can look at the person behind you, and the club height's super high, and you're super rotated. And from a physics perspective, okay, the height is higher, potential energy is higher, which means the kinetic energy could be higher. If kinetic energy is higher at the point of impact, then there's more energy to transfer to the ball to send it further.
Hmm.
Following me?
Hmm.
So from that perspective, okay, could see
Maybe there's some validity
that
there.
that like that could happen, but that doesn't happen from snipping the ligament. That happens from being able to access more of that motion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was there the fourth one that you needed to?
So what did we hit so far? We hit anatomy,
We hit
we hit
physics,
physics, we talked a little bit on the
biomechanics.
biomechanics, and now let's add in the layer of the rest of what makes movement happen.
Hmm.
And muscles don't know their job, ligaments don't know their job. They are simply strained. If you're a ligament, they have tensile force on them. And muscles, they don't know that, oh, I'm a hip external rotator, internal rotator, flexor. So they just know it's time to contract or it's time to relax,
Hmm.
right? And I want to dive into that a little bit because ligaments have this thing in them called proprioceptors that allow the nervous system to have feedback on joint position, joint integrity, that allow the system to say, this is safe, let's move. If that's not occurring, the brain and the nervous system is not going to say, let's create a bunch of force on something that we don't trust and that seems to be unstable. That seems like a thing that's going to be dangerous and risky versus something that's safe. So, yeah, let's not do that. So, the ligaments themselves, they contain proprioceptive feedback mechanisms. Think of someone that rolls their ankle, twists their ankle playing basketball. Their balance is a little messed up after that. They
Hmm.
have to intentionally train to get their proprioception back to be able to have a sense of where that joint is in space. So if the ligament's gone, there's not the proprioceptive feedback that's allowing the system to make fine adjustments, but also not allowing it to trust that it can create a lot of force into that. So how does the movement system create force? Well, the movement system, the brain, the nerves have to communicate to the muscles how much they're going to generate. So the better feedback it has, the more it can feed forward and give better output, or sorry, better input into the muscles to create a better output.
Mm.
If that's not there, then your drive distance isn't going to be great. The last part of this, because I don't want to dive too much more into it, is that ligaments provide joint integrity. If you don't have joint integrity, injury risk can go up because you're hypermobile And now if you add a bunch of force upon a hypermobile joint, we're at risk of subluxation, dislocation because the integrity isn't there.
Hmm.
And so we're taking one of the strongest ligaments that resist the external rotation extension. And what's interesting in that is this is on the kind of the front of the hip. What's the muscle that creates external rotation and hip extension? The glute max, one of the most powerful muscles in the human body, which means that it has to have something on the other side that's going to be able to resist that or help to decelerate it once it does contract. So now we have the most powerful muscle, one of the most powerful muscles, because I think the soleus is the highest one, but one of the higher muscle groups in the body that can produce force. If it's not being opposed by a ligament and that is acting without that opposing force, what's going to happen to that hip joint, right? Not structurally sound to be able to hit the long ball.
Fair.
So I hope that covers it. Hope we didn't lose anybody too much in the science. I was trying to translate the moment arms and levers and all the stuff in my brain into something that's a little bit more digestible for someone who's interested in golf or Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, well, I think our listeners will appreciate that you didn't dive into the dialogue as if we were a physical therapy student
Mm,
who is learning. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like it is very helpful. I do have a follow-up question, but should we do a quick recap of all of that, or should we just say, yeah, no, don't get your don't get it clipped?
Yeah. From a science perspective, when we put it all together from those layers of the physics, the biomechanics, the movement system as a whole, does cutting the iliofemoral ligament lead to a longer driving distance? No.
No. So don't do it.
Yeah, so don't do
So
it.
my follow-up question is quite simple. If you have the best standard golf swing
Hmm.
and you have the best Happy Gilmore golf swing and you're just doing like farthest drive,
Mm.
which one is going to actually be more effective? In the sense of which one can create more power.
So it's an interesting question, and I'll start by saying that whether it's a Happy Gilmore style swing or a quote unquote standard swing, there's one thing that's true.
Okay.
Do you know what that thing is? It came from Happy Swing
Rage.
Coach.
Oh. Oh, it's
It's
all in the
all in
hips.
the hips. It's all in the
It's
hips.
all in the hips.
So when we look at the biomechanics and the kinematic sequence, so basically how does a golfer swing their club? And we look at pros and we look at amateurs, there's a big difference between the two. The kinematic sequence of a pro golfer is that the power is generated first from their hips, and then that transfers up through their core, into their shoulders, down into their forearms, into their hands, and then into the golf club. When you look at the kinematic sequence of an amateur golfer, the opposite of that is true.
Mm.
The way in which a pro golfer approaches the ball may be different. And that's where we see different swing characteristics and approaches to it. But the kinematic sequence stays the same. So whether it's the Happy Gilmore swing or the standard swing, in order to hit a high drive, what's true is that kinematic sequence has to remain
Mm.
the same. I believe the Happy Gilmore swing, if perfected, would be able to lead to a little bit more just because you're developing more power as you're going into the step behind.
Mm.
If you're more of an elastic based athlete,
Yeah.
there are some athletes that don't have that and they're better at not creating more of the spring through elasticity, but by being stable, coiling once and then uncoiling
Mm.
versus kind of using a little bit more momentum into that swing.
Mm.
For me, Happy Gilmore style.
Yeah.
For pro golfers, I think it's safe to say that they've dialed in to hit the long ball using a standard swing and not the Happy Gilmore swing, and whether that's cultural or I'm interested to see if there's been a study
Yeah.
on that of using a Happy Gilmore swing and a standard swing and seeing which one produces more force output with a
Right.
longer drive. So because there is, and that's the funny part about the whole Happy Gilmore series is that you're bringing what is like Shooter McGavin say, he says this is a golf game, not a rock concert,
Right.
right? So it's bringing this like funny, edgy thing into a
Mhm.
sport that is pretty sophisticated, and there's clubs and dress codes and
Right.
all that. That it's like, no, this is the standard swing. This is tradition. and this is how you do it.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that answered it, but that's my answer.
Yeah, no, I think it did. Great job.
Yeah, yeah, and I will point out that there is a study that I was looking at, and it was looking at pro golfers on the PGA Tour. And it was referencing that if they got a hip scope surgery, so not cutting the iliofemoral ligament, but if they got a scope done for labral repair or some type of hip impingement, did that lead to less pain, improvement in their golf game, and driving distance? And it was funny because the study that I think was in the Journal of Orthopedic Sports Medicine showed that it did. That
Mm.
the golfers that underwent the scope surgery got back to playing at elite levels, and at 1 to 2 year follow-up had improved driving distances. But what I say to that is, was it actually the surgery, or was it that they finally had to decrease their training volume?
Mm.
They had to address some muscle groups that they maybe were not addressing prior to it. Were they able to take care of some psychosocial factors and recover better that then led to an improved swing? There's a lot of things that can lead to an improved driving distance that we can't just say it was the surgery itself that did that.
Right. Yeah, I'd be curious if they were to, take someone who had the scope, but then took that time off and rested
Yeah,
versus just like someone who didn't have the scope but still took the time off and rested and then had, did the same PT or an intentional training after that,
right.
if the distance would have been pretty similar between the
Yes.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I think wrapping up the section, we hit the recap, but the other part is to Damien. Um, no, like don't have the surgery. What's missed in all of this is that Happy plays with purpose.
Yeah.
In the first movie and in the second movie, he's playing with purpose
Hmm.
and for a greater thing to serve other people. And yes, there's rage involved in it, and we were talking about that a little bit of like no, I don't have the iliofemoral surgery.
Yeah.
Like, play with rage. Like,
Yeah.
I just think of this scene when he's, are you too good for your home? Go in your home, ball. And like he's learned how to channel that rage
Hmm.
into this thing to use it purposefully. But at the end of the day, he's playing with a lot of purpose
Yeah.
for something bigger outside of himself
Hmm.
to serve his family.
Yeah. And we know that for athletes, that is going to be the case no matter what the sport is. If you, and not that it has to be family driven. I think a lot of the times the best athletes with the best values that have the most peace, no matter what their success is, usually family is part of that, I
Yeah.
would say. However, it really just comes down to like, what is your purpose and what's bringing you fulfillment, and we see that with Happy, which is
Yeah.
really cool. And we
Yeah.
see that when he loses it, how that affects him.
Mhm.
So I think that there's a lot we can learn just by pondering that.
Purpose and authentic.
Hmm.
He has to decrease his behavior a little bit, but he remains authentic to who he
Yeah,
is.
100%.
Yeah.
My hope story
Yes.
is just like as a kid growing up, my brother would watch, these Adam Sandler movies, but I was the youngest in the family, so I wanted to be in the playroom and playing with toys or being outside or whatever, and I never really soaked it in as a kid. And so it's been really fun. I feel like with Happy Gilmore 2 coming out, we went on kind of an Adam Sandler kick and just watched a bunch of Adam Sandler movies, which was a lot of fun for us. And so that's like my little hope story was, we work really hard a lot throughout the day. We work, 8-hour days is pretty uh pretty not gonna happen in the sense of like usually it's more than 8 hours or 10 hours, sometimes even 12. And so it's nice like at the end of a hard work day or a hard work week that we get to, put on a movie or something like that. And it's been fun watching the different Adam Sandler movies throughout all generations. We love watching like Hubie Halloween. It's the only
Yeah.
Halloween movie that we'll watch in October. But it's been fun watching other ones. Like it was the first time that I watched the first Happy Gilmore movie and actually saw it because I don't really remember. Like it was on in the background as a kid. It wasn't
Yeah.
like I was really, really watching it. So it's been a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah. The Sandman doesn't miss.
No, he's awesome. It is so fun.
Yeah.
And not to like go on a rant about it, but like I just love that he is also authentic to himself.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see that in the like Hollywood environment.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
What a career that
Yeah.
he is having.
Hmm.
Because you figure at some point he's like, no, I'm good. And he just like he is so purposeful.
So purposeful, he's really like has a great legacy
Hmm.
that I'm very thankful that we get to like witness.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. So thank you for that question. If you've been wondering, should I watch Happy Gilmore too? The answer to that is yes. I
Uh-huh.
haven't convinced you to watch it. Like that is our bad, but you should watch it. Have a great week, and remember, every day is not just a day to be hopeful, but an opportunity to become hope.
The Hope Not Know podcast is meant for educational, informational, and personal development purposes only and does not constitute any health or medical advice. If you're looking for specific advice, connect with us to work with a Hope coach. The Hope Not Know podcast shall not be liable or responsible for any loss or damage allegedly arising from any information or suggestions in this podcast.